welcome everybody to another lesson of the Focus on Contentful course. I am Marcelo Lewin, the Headless Creator. As always, get a hold of me right there, marcelo@headlesscreator.com. Send me any questions, comments, any ideas you have for future lessons. I love to hear from you, and I'll incorporate them into future lessons. Today, I have a special guest presenter. Most of you probably know her already, Salma Alam-Naylor. She's a developer advocate at Contentful, and she's going to show us how to render linked assets and entries in a Contentful rich text field. And I know for many of you, that's something that's sometimes hard to grasp. She's going to clarify all of that and get that going for us. But before we get started, you know how this works. Real quick, I'm going to tell you about headlesscreator.com. Go get your free account at headlesscreator.com. Once you do that, you'll have access not only to this lesson on demand, which will be available like probably 20-30 minutes right after we're done with this lesson, but then you'll have access to the entire Focus on Contentful course with tons of lessons. You can see tons of lessons there presented by a variety of presenters. There's Salma right there. So you'll have access to that. You'll also have access to where I geek out on Content Modeling Weekly. Everybody knows I love content modeling. You'll have access to a bunch of other courses, including Discover Headless Tech. And I'm about to launch a brand new course for personalization bootcamp. So that's coming out pretty soon. So go get your free account. You help support the site, and I really appreciate that. All right, having said that, you know how this works out. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna restart the intro because the intro will have absolutely no marketing for the on-demand version. So I'm gonna go ahead and restart the intro, and I'll see you back in 10 seconds. Well, hello, and welcome to another lesson of the Focus on Contentful course. I am Marcelo Lewin, the Headless Creator. As always, right there, get a hold of me, marcelo@headlesscreator.com. Send me an email, questions, comments, ideas, whatever you like. I love to hear from you. Today, I have a special guest presenter. Her name is Salma Alam-Naylor. She's the developer advocate at Contentful, and she's going to show us how to render linked assets and entries in a Contentful rich text field. It's a really interesting topic, which she's going to get really deep into it. I'm not going to tell you anything else about her because I'm actually going to bring her in. Salma, welcome.
Hello, everybody. How are you doing? Hope you're having a good day.
Yep, definitely. Now, where are you located?
I am in Manchester in the UK.
Ah, okay. Well, I'm in Southern California. So right here, it's super early in the morning. It's about 7:30. What is it over there? It's like 5 o'clock?
3:30 in the afternoon.
Oh, 3:30. Okay, so it's not beer time yet. No pub.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Anyway, welcome. Thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. You're very well known in the community. I wanted to start out, for those that don't know, just give a quick overview of yourself. And also, how did you get into technology? Like, what attracted you to development specifically?
My tagline is, I'm White Panther. I help developers build stuff, learn things, and love what they do. That's my mission in the community and why I do what I do. I actually got into tech at a really early age, but wasn't really able to pursue it. So I wrote my first lines of code when I was 6 years old on a Commodore 64, copying them from a manual, and I was fascinated. I only recently realized I was writing Visual Basic or Basic.
Basic, yeah. No visual back then yet.
No. So that was fun. I grew up in a very rural area in the southwest of the UK, and in the 90s there's no one doing tech in those kind of areas. I had no one to talk to about it, and the internet wasn't a thing, right? So I couldn't explore there is a wealth of tutorials and content out there now to help people learn. So I didn't have any of that. But when I got the internet at home when I was 13, I built my first GeoCities website straight away. And but that was the extent of it, really, because the internet wasn't what it's like today. So I was a musician, a trained musician. I did a music degree, and I actually ended up qualifying as a music teacher for 11 to 18-year-olds as well. I did that for a few years, but I always wanted to do tech. through a series of fortunate events, after working in a call center for minimum wage, I ended up being a front-end developer, moved on to being a tech lead for a few years after that. I think I was a tech lead for about 6 or 7 years. And I got into DevRel during the beginning of the pandemic when I started streaming on Twitch because I wanted to keep my tech skills fresh, because when you're a tech lead, you don't do much tech anymore. Right. And that allowed me to meet the world of DevRel and people who were streaming tech on Twitch as well. And there I am. I'm at Contentful now. So,
wow, that's a lot to unpack there. So you've got, you're a musician, which I didn't know that part. Did you have a favorite instrument? And did you want to start a band, or did you want to go into teaching when you went to get your degree?
So my degree was in composition.
Okay.
So I was writing the music, but my main instruments when I was growing up was piano and flute and singing. And also I had a brief career of teaching kids how to be in rock bands, like Jack Black on School of Rock. I did that for a few years. So I played bass, mainly bass and guitar and a bit of drums and all that good stuff. I was in a band. I was in a folk band. We still have an album on Spotify. We did a lot of touring around the country, played at a lot of weddings, that kind of thing. Yeah. But I think one of the things is with music, normally, unless you have a really established like orchestral career or gigging career, it's very hard to make a living. And so a lot of musicians go back into teaching, and that's what I ended up.
Right, right. Well, in composition, you could have gotten into filmmaking too, right? Doing a lot of
I really wanted to be a film composer, but at the time it was really like London was the hub, and I didn't want to move to London. I'd already met my husband just after I graduated, and we had a life up here. And so that was kind of out of my reach. I think the music world is very similar to the tech world, and it's all about like who you know and the networks that you create as well. And I wasn't really into that at that time.
Yeah. Definitely. And by the way, going back to your Commodore 64 thing, that was my second computer. My first computer was a Commodore VIC-20. I am a bit older than you, obviously. So my first computer was the VIC-20, but I also started with BASIC, and Lunar Lander was my first game I wrote on the Commodore VIC-20. So anyway.
I mean, full disclosure, obviously I had no idea what I was doing in BASIC on the Commodore 64, but I loved it nonetheless.
It was great days. It was great days because limited resources, and that taught you a lot, right? Right?
Yeah.
So definitely. Okay, cool. Well, let's get started. For those of you, if you have any questions, I want to show you your screen, Salma. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and I'm going to go ahead and pass on the questions to Salma. Salma, I'm going to stay here, but I'm going to let you get going.
Okay, thank you. So during my time at Contentful, I've done a lot of work on the rich text field, and I get a lot of questions about the rich text field. And I first of all want to tell you why I really like the rich text field. So in your traditional old school content management systems, front-end developers are often dealing with HTML-based WYSIWYG editors. What you see is what you get. And for those of you who have worked with those kinds of things, you've probably come across a lot of problems such as content editors copying and pasting HTML into the WYSIWYG, which ends up breaking your front ends. You feel like you don't have much control over the HTML that's delivered, and you can't port your content from one platform to another because everything's in that constricted, bespoke HTML for that templating system. And so rich text aims to solve this problem it does solve this problem by delivering you actually a JSON response rather than an HTML response. And this is why you need to do a little bit of work with things such as images and videos and other linked entries inside the rich text field to display them on the front end. But this is why it's so powerful. So for example, if you have a rich text field and you add an image into it, you add something else, and you use one of Contentful's open source rich text renderers to help you parse that response and get it out, a lot of people say, oh, I've got an image here. Why isn't it showing? Shouldn't it already be showing? And the answer is no, because we don't want to control your HTML. The rich text field is JSON, and it allows you to create your own HTML that you can port from platform to platform in a more platform agnostic way and gives you a lot more freedom. The rich text renderer can't know what framework you're using and what you want to do with it. And so it gives you the JSON and then you lay it out as you need. So this means that you're not constricted also to HTML-based platforms. So you can use Contentful to power a React Native application and do whatever you need with the JSON that you get back from the rich text. You can display your content probably from the rich text field on billboards and things like that. So it doesn't lock you down to just displaying stuff on a website from the HTML that you get from a CMS. The main point is you are in control. So we do have a variety of different rich text renderers for a variety of different programming languages as well. There is a repo on GitHub, Contentful/rich text, which you can see a list of all these. It also gives you a lot of other tools, such as getting rich text from Markdown. If you're working on a migration from one platform to another where your content's already in Markdown, we offer tools to allow you to convert Markdown to rich text, to HTML, to plain text as well, which is really useful. A use case for rich text to plain text is on my personal website. I have blog posts that as part of the build process, I send all of my blog post content to Algolia for the search on my website, but I don't want to store rich text or the HTML from my Contentful content in Algolia. I want to convert it to plain text for easy searching. So that's a really handy tool. And we also have some community-made rich text renderers as well, and it's all open source. So today I want to show you how to render linked entries and assets in the rich text field using the GraphQL API, because that's a little bit more involved than using the SDK and the REST API. And I also I like using GraphQL because it has no dependencies. You can just use JavaScript fetch with that, and you can get everything you need. So I have some things I prepared earlier. In Contentful, I've got a space called My Cool Website, and here is my very simple content model. Some of these are just for arbitrary demonstration purposes. We have a title, this is a short text field, a slug, because I want to query the blog post via GraphQL by slug, a featured image kind of thing, which is not in the rich text field, but it's just there to show you a demonstration of how to get some stuff in GraphQL. This color, I have added arbitrarily to the blog post to show you how data translates from the main post to a linked entry, and then the body, which is rich text. So I have two blog posts. The first one is sign up to my newsletter. Now this one is a basic sign up to my newsletter. It's got a picture of my face, it's green, and here I have learn something new every week. Sign up to, I don't have a newsletter, by the way. Sign up to start every week with web development tips, productivity tricks, useful GitHub projects, blah, 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 blah. So this is the blog post that I'm going to link in another blog post. And so this one is keep up to date. So inside this one, we have, inside this rich text field, we have another H2. We have some links that will come out nicely already in the renderer for us. We have this linked entry. And the way you can do that is with this embed field, you link an inline entry. I'm using inline, not block, by the way. And then you can choose that. I mean, that's linking to itself, so that might be a bit weird. So I'm going to delete that. But this is essentially, I've got a linked entry. And all of this data can come down from GraphQL with that, which means that everything that you change in this one will stay up to date. So those are the two blog posts. Yep.
You said you're going to do inline and not block. For those that aren't familiar with it, what is the difference between inline and block entry, both from the authoring perspective, but also from the developer perspective?
So it's a little bit like